Let me ask you this. Did anyone ever teach you how to forgive? And maybe you wonder, well, why do we need to talk about forgiveness? I know I'm supposed to forgive people, and sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't want to. Why should I? They caused me pain, right? We're in midlife. There have been plenty of experiences so far in life that have caused us pain. But what if forgiveness was for you, to help you feel better? Then maybe that's worth a look. And so today I am talking with my guest about forgiveness and a way to do it that is for you. That's coming up next. Stay with us. Welcome to Mind Your Midlife, your go-to resource for confidence and success, one thought at a time. Unlike most advice out there, we believe that simply telling you to believe in yourself or change your habits isn't enough to wake up excited about life or feel truly confident in your body. Each week, you'll gain actionable strategies and, oh my goodness, powerful insights to stop feeling stuck and start loving your midlife. This is the Mind Your Midlife podcast. Welcome back. This is episode 2, and today we are talking about forgiveness from the angle that this is healthy for you. So I don't know about you, but I definitely have had experiences in my life. And right now I'm thinking of something that happened in college, which, spoiler, was a long time ago, but incidents in my life that I've had a hard time forgiving. And maybe in this particular case, I would never go back to the person and speak with them about it because frankly, I just don't want to. And so that creates complication in our standard definition of forgiveness. If I'm not going to go speak to the person and tell them I forgive them, then what am I doing? Well, my guest today, Katharine Giovanni, says forgiveness is for ourselves. And it doesn't even have to involve the other person, but it's about being able to lose the anger for ourselves. Katharine is an award-winning, best-selling author, a speaker, a trainer, and advisor, and her latest book is The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power. So let's dive in. Let's start with the why for forgiveness. So why is it so important to forgive, and how does that anger that we hold on to inside when we don't forgive hurting us?
I'll get into the science of it in a second, but everybody listening to this broadcast, including you, my friend, everybody, 10 out of 10 people on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable dumpster fire and 1 being super easy to forgive, every single one of you is thinking of your number 10 person. Everybody. And it's a knee-jerk reaction that when you see the word forgiveness, you immediately think of the worst case, and then you think, I don't want to.
Right.
And I'm the only one in the world that's going to look at you dead in the eye and say, you don't have to forgive your number 10 forgiveness person. Why am I saying that to you? Okay, first of all, it may not be appropriate. And second of all, there's so many other people, places, and things. I did say places and things. Stay with me. That you can forgive before you even get to that dumpster fire. There's those number ones that you label, the easy ones that you can do. And, the why you should forgive, there was a study. Let me back up. Anger is toxic.
Yes.
Right? And we're all taught anger is toxic. We're also taught to forgive and forget. Okay, I'm from New York City originally, and there might be a unicorn person on the planet that can magically forget. I'm not that person, and I wrote the book. So, you're not going to forget. But what I'm going for is neutrality. You can go back into the past and look at that memory, and there will be no emotional reaction to it. So people say anger is toxic. Okay, how? All right. I'm very much into the how. There was a study done. I'll make this really quick. There was a study done by a Japanese researcher named Matsumoto. I think that's how you pronounce it. And he studied water. And I'm going to dumb this down. He took several containers of water. One container, he said these beautiful things too, loving things. The other container, he said nasty things. He said he hated it and all those kinds of things. The pictures are right on the internet. They're really cool. And he put them both under a microscope. The water he said negative things to had these black and brown, gross, nasty kind of formations. And the water he spoke love to had these beautiful white crystalline formations. Now, why am I telling you this? Your body is 98% water.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have negative self-talk, if you are angry and you're bitter and you're living in your anger, what is it doing to the water molecules within your body? It's toxic and it's turning them into sludge. That's the why. And if you're angry, you're not paying attention to the world around you. You could be missing money-making opportunities. You could be missing your significant other that's going to just make or break your life. And it's all because you're too focused on your anger. That's the why. You know, I have a lot of people, Cheryl, who look at me and say, anger is my fuel. My hate is the reason. It's the reason I've gotten to where I am today. It's fueling what I do. Okay, I'll bite. Yes, it is. However, love and forgiveness will get you 100% farther than hate ever will. And if you think you've gotten success now, forgive people and now watch your car just race to the head of the class, and it'll do it
Wow.
fast.
You know what? There's so much in there that's so important. No, seriously, so important, because I've done a number of different episodes on the podcast with people talking about, how would I even give this a whole heading, about just the health of our bodies in general, and
Right.
the energy of that, and gut health and all sorts of things. And to me, you just added such an interesting new dimension to that, saying that I'm always talking about self-talk. I'm a mindset coach. This is
Mm-hmm.
a big thing for me, but we could potentially be adding chronic negative stuff that leads to
Sure.
illness to our own bodies, you're saying, by holding on to this anger and all that
Yeah.
negativity. Yeah.
I'm a cancer survivor. I've been sober for 34 years and I'm a cancer survivor. So there's a lot of water under my bridge, so to speak. And the more you forgive, the better you're going to feel. And using my method, which is very unique, um, it's going to make you feel better. Did it prevent me from getting cancer? No, but I forgave cancer. I forgave a whole bunch of things. And I can go into the
Mm.
method in a minute. There's a lot more to it. Now, a
Well,
few things.
I don't want to get ahead of you, but can I ask you about this things, places and things idea? You're saying you forgave cancer. I get what you're saying. But tell us a little bit more about this idea of forgiving places and things.
Let me pre-qualify it. First of all, if I forgive you, it doesn't mean you were right. It doesn't mean I'm giving you a pass. It doesn't mean I'm saying, okay, everything is good. Forgiveness is selfish. I'm doing it for me. You are still wrong and you are still somebody I don't want a relationship with. Just because I forgive you doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I probably don't.
Mhm.
Now, when you go into recovery, a lot of people go into AA and you're supposed to go through the steps and you're supposed to do a fourth step and you're supposed to reach out and make amends. I was raised I was very shy. And I am an extroverted introvert now, so I can turn it on and off if I want to, but I haven't always been this way. So reaching out to people, not my cup of tea. So
Mm.
in my method, you don't have to reach out to anybody. You do it in the privacy of your own home. Forgiveness is selfish. You do it for you. My formal definition of forgiveness is this. I want you out of my head. I want to
Mm.
stop thinking about you. I want to stop I want to stop all of it. I just want you out of my head. And I want, when I think about the memory, I don't want to think good. I don't want to think bad. I just don't want to think about it. So that's my formal definition. Now, the secret sauce to the whole method is my friends and I, my partners and I figured it out. It's the energy. Here's some more science for you. Einstein very, very correctly said energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just transforms into something else. So when you get angry, what do you think happens? You think it leaves your mouth and the energy just magically dissipates in the universe. It does not. It hangs in your energy field. It's what's it's what's changing the water molecules in your body. And it's going to stay there until you change it, until you forgive. So in my little method, and you don't have to have incense unless you want to. You don't have to dance around or hold a crystal unless you want to. That's fine with me. It's a very simple poem. And I'm going to have you forgive the person and the energy around the person, yourself, the energy around you, and the energy around the whole thing. Okay,
Mm.
Catherine, well, that's great. But what about my unforgivable person? What do I do? Well, it may not be appropriate for you to forgive the actual person, but forgiveness is like an onion. And as you peel back the memories, like the layers of an onion, eventually you'll get to the center. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You can't go from a number 10 level person to a 1 overnight. Not going to happen. It's going to take a minute. So if you can't forgive the person, that's fine. Let's forgive other pieces of the memory. Let's say it's somebody in school when you were a kid. Okay, well, let's forgive the school, the energy around the school. Let's forgive the play pit of the park. Let's forgive the swing set. Let's forgive the kids who didn't do anything and the
Mhm.
energy around the kids.
Mhm.
See what I'm doing? Let's forgive the bedroom, the table, the chair, the bench, the date. Let's forgive all of those kinds of things. Personally, I forgave 1974. Haha. Why? Because that was the year I tried to commit suicide. I also forgave cancer and the energy around cancer. I forgave the chemo chair, the doctors, the room, the building that I had the chemo in. I forgave the surgeries that I had to have. I was sick for 4 years. And
Mhm.
I forgave the energy around these things. And you can, as you dial it back, eventually you might get your 10 down to a 7, down to a 6. I mean, you'll slowly get it down. But in my method, I want you to start with the number ones. I want you
Yeah.
to start with the person who cut you off in the aisle 5 of the grocery store. I want you to start with the person who cut you off on I-95 South. You can forgive these people. The person today, I was at the gas station and I wish this woman have a nice day. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, fat chance of that." And I thought, okay,
Ooh.
I know, right? So I got into the car and I forgave her. She didn't do anything. She didn't say anything. I wasn't upset, but I wanted to clear the energy so I didn't have a bad day. So I forgave her and the energy around her. It was easily cleared because it was. So
Yeah.
change your
Yeah.
this is a change your life kind of method. And the reason people look at me and say, "Oh, well, I have forgiven them," they say through clenched teeth. Okay, well, might want to give it another go.
Maybe the
And
body language is telling us something
oh yeah.
else.
And it's usually family, somebody you live with or a family member you grew up with. It's usually the case, right? And so it's a question of let's clear the energy around these people. And if it's a situation that's so dark and so horrible, well then let's start with forgive yourself for not being able to forgive. Just start there. And
Uh-huh.
that'll start the car going. That will help. And
Well,
there's
as you
worksheets and all sorts of stuff in the book.
Yeah, as you were describing that, I was getting a sense of what you're saying because, the pieces of the situation, as you're
Right.
saying to forgive them, I could picture it it changes the way we recognize the situation. Like I could
Right.
see how that would change. Yeah.
Well, you're releasing the energy. And, how do you know you've forgiven somebody? It's when you can go on Facebook, see their name, and there's no emotional charge there. There's nothing.
Mhm.
So let's take another example. What if it's Thanksgiving coming up and you have to sit next to Aunt Martha? God bless her. As they say in the South, bless her heart.
Bless her heart.
Bless her heart. And you know what she's going to say. She's a negative Nelly kind of person. You ask your mom all the time, please don't sit me next to her. And somehow every year you're sitting next to Aunt Martha. You know it's going to happen. And it pisses you off. And she knows exactly what buttons to push. And she pushes them every year. So what do? You forgive Aunt Martha before you go. You forgive
Mm.
the energy around Aunt Martha. You go back into the memories. You pick out various Thanksgivings where memories are particularly horrible, and you forgive the table, the chair, the turkey, the people at the table, the chair you're sitting in, the room, the building. So by the time you get to the actual Thanksgiving, she's not going to be able to push your buttons. You're probably going to laugh. It's not going to bother
Wow.
you. Now,
Wow.
does she still know how to push your buttons? Yeah. And you're going to expect it. You know what's going to happen. You know what she's going to say. and you're just not going to matter. Or, this is somebody who's 34 years sober saying this, make it a drinking game. There you go. It's going to happen. So yeah, it's way to turn lemons into lemonade. I can't remember the name.
Yes,
You
that
know
you
the
got
saying
it.
I'm trying. Yeah, there you
Yes.
go. But this is a way of getting through life and losing the baggage. And why do you want to do that? Because the person you were always meant to be when you were born, you couldn't be that person because you were hidden behind anger and bitterness and stuff that's happened to you.
Yeah.
Once you lose that stuff and you lose the bitterness and the anger, well, now you can be the person you were always meant to be.
I like that. So why is it that even though we know this would be good for us to forgive, why is it that we often don't?
Because we don't want to. It's too painful. You don't want to go back to the memory.
Mm,
And you also think, well, if I forgive, it means they were right. And I don't want them. They're not right. So I'm not going to forgive them. If I forgive, it's going to give them a pass.
yeah.
No, no. Forgiveness is selfish. They won't even know you're forgiving. In fact, they probably didn't even know you're mad at them. That makes you mad, doesn't it? I mean, you want them to be as miserable as you,
Whew.
but they're not. They're not.
Yes.
They're going out to dinner and they're conducting they're not giving you a moment's thought. That's irritating in itself, isn't it? You want them to be irritated. They're not. They're not thinking
Yeah.
anything about you.
Yeah.
And you can forgive dead people too, to be perfectly blunt, because forgiveness is selfish. It doesn't matter where they are or are not. You're doing it for you. You don't even have to tell them you forgave them. And it may not even be appropriate for you to do so. This is a selfish program. You do it 100% for your own mental health. You don't have to tell a soul that you're doing this process. They're gonna notice, because if you start with the easy ones, your whole energy field is going to
Mhm.
soften, and they're going to look
Mhm.
at you and say, did you get a haircut? I mean, something about you is different. What are you doing? And you can either tell the truth or not. It's completely up to you. Don't be surprised if you lose friends or family along the way, because you're changing who you are. And you're not going to be the same person. And maybe they like having a punching bag. Maybe they like having somebody negative around them, and you're going to be pulling away from them, correctly so. And they may or may not like that. So they may try and sabotage it. Just keep going, because I've always felt if I'm annoying somebody, even through my writing, well, then I've planted a good seed and I'm going to keep doing it.
Mm.
I must be doing it right. If I'm irritating you, well, then I'm doing something right.
At the very least, making people think, right?
I'm planting some good seeds.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I was going to ask is, does it kind of mean when we forgive someone that maybe we feel like we were taking part of the blame or something? And I think you've said no. I mean, I don't think that would ever be true, but I think there's just all these things we tell ourselves
Yeah,
as to
it was
why.
my fault.
Yeah.
I don't want to forgive because it was my fault. And if I forgive that person, then I have to acknowledge my part that I played.
Hmm.
Okay. There are many Catherines in my life. And the Catherine I am right now at 63, there it is, ancient as anything. But there's been a lot of Catherines in my life. And the person I had to be in order to survive is somebody I can forgive. I could forgive that Catherine because she used the tools she had at the time. I'm not a very religious person by any stretch, but when I was in school and grammar school, they made me memorize Bible verses. And there's one Bible verse that has always gotten me to forgiveness. Jesus is strung up on the cross, and I've always thought he must have been in a lot of pain. I can only imagine, right? And he said, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do." What I think he meant by that is, if you're talking to a 5-year-old and they don't know trigonometry, you can't get angry at that. They're doing the best they can. So my parents did the best they could with the tools they had at the time. Was
Right.
it good enough? Absolutely not. But they did the best they could. So that idea combined with some Simone Biles mental gymnastics usually gets me to forgiveness. It may not get a 10 down to a 1, but it usually moves the dial just a little bit. So the biggest problem with forgiveness and the hardest person to forgive is yourself.
Yes. Yes. I definitely want to dive into that. But as you were talking about people doing the best they can, a quote
Yeah.
came to mind. I think it was Jim Rohn who said this, but he said, there's only about 9 really horrible people in the world. Now they move around a lot, which is the funny part. But the idea being most people are doing the best they can. Most people are good, they're trying, and, we don't get it for whatever reason, maybe, but they're trying. So I agree with you on that point.
They're doing the best they can. And who they were yesterday is not who they are today.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
should you hold me accountable for something I did 25 years ago? Yes and no. But I was a different person back then.
Yeah,
And you can
exactly.
forgive that person because you did the best that you could. Now, another reason people don't want to forgive is because they don't want to go back into the memories. I get that. And that's completely fair. Absolutely fair. I get it. But I'm only asking you to go back once more, maybe. I'm asking you to go back in that memory so you can clear it forever. So you can be the person that you've always wanted to be. You can have that dream life, that dream house, and that dream career. Not tomorrow. I mean, it's not an immediate fix. You're not going to get it by 2 o'clock on Tuesday, but it will slowly start to move into your life. Why? Because you're going to start to pay attention to the world around you, and you
Yes.
haven't been paying attention because you've been looking into your past. You've been looking at the anger and the bitterness, and it's these, it's all this stuff that's happened to you becomes your badge of honor, doesn't it? It becomes your identity. Look what I've survived. I've survived cancer. I've survived money problems. I've survived this horrible childhood and suicide. Okay. Yeah. Once I lost that, who am I? Very scary. Very
Yeah.
scary. You wear
Yeah.
that coat for so many years and you take it off finally. Who are you? Well, you're the
Yeah.
person you were always meant to be.
And the cool thing is, there's a lot of nervous system and brain science around this too,
Mhm.
because I can see what you're saying. When we get out of that stressed state,
Right.
then that's when we get to think creatively. And that's when, exactly as you say, we're going to have ideas and we're going to be open to new things, notice new things. And absolutely. Yes.
And if you start with the easy ones, the ones, twos, threes, and fours, the fives and sixes, it's starting to kind of get into your head, right? These are the people that are kind of they're in your head. They're not taking your life over exactly, but they're in there. They're renting space in your head. But if you start with the easy ones, your life is going to shift because you're going to be losing. It's like losing a couple pounds. You start to feel better. You're going to lose it. And then when you get to 10, 20 pounds, it's like, wow, now I feel really good. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Really interesting. Well, tell us a little bit about your method, because I know that this is something that no one else is teaching. Absolutely.
No, they're not. What I there's a whole bunch of worksheets and stuff in the book, and I have an audio book for anybody who doesn't like to read, so don't panic.
Great.
But I
Great.
really want you to sit down and think of everybody you think you need to forgive. And don't be surprised if you put weird things down there, like your school, that kind of thing. It's perfectly fine. I have my one of my partners put down a little red wagon. She had no idea why she put it down. She had no memory of it. But there was obviously a part of her that was mad at the darn thing. So she labeled it a
Hmm.
level one and she forgave it. So I want you, once you get your list together of the people you think you need to forgive, then I want you to rate them from 1 to 10. 10 being unforgivable, horrific. One being easy peasy. And you can have 10 number ones, you can have 4 number fives. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. Just get your list together. And then I want you to take it in 10-person chunks. I only want you to do 10 at a time because you'll make yourself sick if you don't. And I could explain that if you want. But then I want you to take the first person and I usually sit in the middle of my bed and I imagine that they're standing in front of me. And I imagine, like, if it's a childhood friend, I kind of remember what they looked like as a kid. And I will say whatever I want to say because it's just you alone in the room and nobody else. And it doesn't
Hmm.
matter if the person is passed, you can still imagine they're standing in front of you. And then once you've gotten it out, you forgive them, put your hand in your heart, because at the end of the day, the words are just for the humans, they're just for us. It's the energy behind your words that's going to mean the most. And then I want you to say the mantra I have in the book, which is forgiving them and the energy around them and the whole situation. And then check in with your body. Are you still mad? Okay, where? And if it was let's say a level 6, is it still a 6? Or do you think maybe it's a 5 now? And if it was a level 3 and you're really mad, okay, well, you might want to relabel that as 7. There's obviously some memories there that you didn't remember. So you might want to scratch that out and bump that number up again. It's a kind of a process.
Yeah.
And the only reason I want you to do 10 at a time is because when I came up with this method, I must have had 40, 50 people on my list. And I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to forgive all these people all at once. It's going to be like a Band-Aid. I'm going to rip it off. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning. I'm going to be a new person. And of course, I want you to do it before you go to bed because your body heals itself while it's sleeping.
Yes.
So I did. And I spent the next 3 days in bed with what everybody thought was a stomach flu. Why? Remember that Japanese water study about the cells? Well, your body has to clear out all the energy. Sometimes it'll be able to clear it in your sleep. Most people get tired, which is another reason why I want you to do it before bed. Some people get thirsty. And then there are people like me who end up politely said in the bathroom for a while. This is not a piece of bad fish. Your body is cleansing itself.
Wow.
And if you do too many at a time, you will literally make yourself sick. So try and just do 10 at a time every night before you go to bed.
That's really fascinating. And I can see even putting aside making yourself sick, it would be a little traumatic maybe to
Your
go
body,
back
yeah.
and, see all of that. So many, so many, so many. Yeah.
And remember, the energy around your body is dark and it's gray, and you're transforming. You're not clearing it, you're turning it into a different color. You're turning it from a dark color to a light color. And that's just science. Einstein even proved it. So when you forgive, your body literally has to change everything. The cells have to go from that sludge down to clear. And it's a process, and your body needs time to do it. That's always why I want you to do it before you go to bed.
Really fascinating. Really fascinating. I absolutely am planning to try this. I mean, we all have people we need to forgive, right? So let me circle back to one thing you said before, that and let's see how it changes the method if it does. You said it's hardest to forgive ourselves. I think I agree with that. So then how do we go about forgiving ourselves?
The method is the same. The first thing out of your mouth is probably, I forgive myself for not being able to forgive.
Hmm.
And the energy around that. That's probably the first thing you say. And then I want you to treat yourself like any unforgivable level 10 person. I want you to pick out the pieces in the memory. If you can't forgive yourself, well, you're probably thinking of one specific memory. So pick out, let's use Aunt Martha at Thanksgiving because we already did that one. Maybe you did something, you said something to Aunt Martha, you
Mm.
can't forgive yourself. You can forgive the table. You can forgive the family. You can forgive the turkey. You can forgive Aunt Martha. You can forgive the fact it was Thanksgiving. Pick out other pieces of the memory, and then
Okay.
wait 24 hours and then see if you can forgive yourself. If you can't, keep picking out pieces of the memory and just forgive the energy of the situation. And eventually you'll be able to forgive yourself for that memory. And then, if you're like most of us, another memory will pop up and replace the one you just forgive. Nuts. I still got more. Humans are going to irritate other humans. We have so many memories in our brains that we have forgotten. I could do this all day, and you might. But at some point, the memories will stop, and you're going to look at yourself in the mirror, and you're going to say, "I can breathe again."
Hmm.
And it's going to feel weird because that's a weird thing to say, but I can breathe again. I said it myself, and I didn't know I wasn't breathing. I didn't know, but it's how I felt. I thought, I can breathe. I feel like I've just walked outside and I left a horrible situation. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
But it's a process. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Be kind to yourself. It's not going to happen overnight. You got to kind of pick at it like a scab. That's a
Yeah.
horrible analogy, but
It's a little unsettling, I'll give you that.
it is a little unsettling, but you have to pick at it.
Yeah, and I often tell people, because a coach of mine told me that dealing with ourselves and our own brains and the stuff going around in our head all the time, that's the work. That's ongoing always, because our
Right.
brains are going to
Yeah.
skew negative anyway. So
All the time.
it's okay that it didn't maybe take the first night and you have to keep working on it. That's totally normal. I get that.
And
Mhm.
most of them, if it's a level, if you rated this person, place, or thing anything above a 4, you're probably gonna have to take a couple passes at it. The
Mhm.
1s are super easy. The 2s, sure. The 3s, they're
Mm,
easy. Might take a little mental gymnastics, but you could probably do it. But when you get up to those higher numbers, okay, we're starting to be a bear.
yeah, really good point. And I mean, we know that's gonna be the case because if I sit here and think about something that is between a 5 and a 10 for me, I'm thinking, "Well, how could I even forgive in that instance?" So I
Yeah,
understand, it could take some effort for sure.
it is. And pick at it, pick at the memory. If you can't forgive yourself, and I can't say this to people enough, just pick at it. And a little word to women. I don't know why it's mostly women who have this problem. Men genuinely do not. Um, you are worthy, and we
Mm,
do believe you.
mm.
You can do this. You're worthy enough to live in joy. I ask a lot of people over the years, what brings you joy? And it would turn your hair white if you knew how many people looked at me and said, I have no idea.
Oh, I've heard people say that to me too. Yeah,
Yeah, I have no idea. And happiness is something it's almost this is almost brief momentarily. I can be happy while I'm eating a pint of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Then I'm unhappy because I ate a pint of Ben and Jerry's ice cream and I feel sick. We've all done that. But joy is permanent. Joy is something you can't take away joy. Once you have joy inside of yourself, nobody can take that from you. And there's a lot of people that just, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess money. Money brings me joy. No, money brings you happiness. What brings you joy? And it's usually something outside of yourself. It's usually a relationship. Because at the end of your life, when it's your last minute on this earth, you're not going to be upset that you didn't make enough money. You're going to be thinking about relationships. You're
very
going to be
true.
thinking about love.
Mhm. Very true. Very true. And gosh, aren't those family relationships some of the toughest ones to deal with,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
man.
sometimes?
Oh, you have no idea. It took a long time for me to forgive my parents and all the dysfunctional players in my past, and it didn't take just a week. It took some time, and but once you're through it, I can't tell you the freedom that I feel now, and I can go into family functions and nobody bothers me anymore. Now, I may have to go out to my car and say, I forgive, I forgive, I forgive, I forgive, I forgive. Because they're family, they push your buttons and they'll say something and you're like, oh, nuts. But because you've already forgiven them, it's pretty easy to clear it to the memory because it's new and you're doing this process. So I'll say I forgive them 100 times and then go back to my house and then I'll do my own process.
Traditionally, when we think about forgiveness, we think about
Mhm.
having a conversation with that person. And your
Yeah.
method is very focused on forgiveness for our own health and our own mindset and mental state and life, which is
Mhm.
amazing. Is there a case where we do want to have a conversation with that person?
Sure. If you want. You can
Okay.
reach out and call somebody if you want and have it out if you want to. That's fine. I usually, whenever I came up with that, I'd have the conversation with the person in front of me, and they weren't in front of me. I would just imagine the person in front of me, and then I would let them verbally have it and say whatever I wanted to say. I never thought it was a personal journey for me. In fact, most of the people I forgave have no idea that I've forgiven them, although
Mm,
they might if they met me today. But if you feel the need to reach out to your mom and have it out, great. But you might you might get the same reaction that you've been getting all your life from her. I'm not entirely sure you should go into it expecting nothing, to be honest.
mhm. Yeah.
Forgiveness is selfish. You do it for you. If you want to tell your mom everything you want to tell her, do it. But you're doing it for you. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
Yes, that's a great point, and I can see a conversation with something related to one of the one with somebody related to
Oh
one of the
yeah.
ones would probably be easy, right? "I'm so
Yeah.
sorry I, dropped the
Sure.
whatever," or,
Oh yeah.
uh, yeah,
But if
that's
it's a
different.
number 10, very hard.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a number 10 and you really want to reach out to this person, let's say it is your mother, for example, maybe you'll wait until you've got her down to a 5.
Mhm.
The reason I'm saying that is because it might be a volatile situation and she's going to push your buttons. I guarantee she's going to push your buttons. And if you wait until she's like a 5 or a level 4, she won't be able to push your buttons as much because you will have forgiven a lot of the layers of that onion. Remember, onions have layers, and you're going to be able to forgive a lot of those layers. So if I was your forgiveness coach, I would suggest wait until you've got her down from a 10 down to a more reasonable number. And then go over to the house and have a conversation.
Yeah.
It'll probably go over a lot better for her as well.
Really good advice. Yeah. Yeah. Taking the emotional volatility out of it.
You haven't removed all of the emotional charge, but you've gotten rid of a lot of it if it's down to a 5. Could you go over and have a reasonable conversation? Maybe. I can't answer the question without knowing who you are and your family, but I'd like to say yes.
At least a better chance of it sounds like.
It'd be a much better chance.
Yeah.
The outcome will be better than if you go in there at a 10.
Thank you so much, Katharine, for joining me today. And I will tell you, listeners, my real OMG moment here was that I can work on forgiveness for me because it's healthier for me and I can do it a little bit at a time and it is so good for my body. And that is such a powerful message. And I really just don't think we hear that in other situations. So if you found this fascinating, go and connect with Katharine at her website, KatharineGiovanni.com. That's KatharineGiovanni.com. You can also get her book on CherylPFisher.com/read. Check all of that out in the show notes. Did you love this show? Well, if you're listening on Apple, scroll down in your app, leave a rating, leave a review. Thank you so much for doing that. And make sure you followed Mind Your Midlife because the next episode, we're going to be talking about toxic positivity and how you can take some of the pieces that we talk about on this podcast, create big dreams, create big goals, but not do it in a negative, harmful way. Until then, oh my goodness, let's keep creating confidence and success one thought at a time.